Hello, anybody else who's joining us live. And if you're joining us not live, picking up later, we're just really glad to be with you. And mea culpa. I think I don't want to give myself excuses, but I think part of my complex post-traumatic stress disorder is that my sense of time is wacko. And that's not even kind to myself. My sense of time got frozen in the moment when much of my time as a child, I was hypervigilant and I was afraid I was going to be hurt or something really bad was going to happen. There would be some kind of abuse. And so my mind lived in constant, when I was in the house, I lived in constant um, present. And I literally have to have minders when I go places. I have to have somebody who says, okay, girl, you got 15 minutes left. Okay, you got 10 minutes left. So here's what just happened. I went back to my garden. It's been raining here. I went back to my garden. I had three things to do: plant new seeds because my arugula and my bok choy is and my kale is done for the first season. The second thing was to chop down the heads of oregano plants so I can infuse vinegar with oregano. And the third thing was this buddy of mine, gardening buddy, left his weed whacker so I could go throughout all of these fields. I've got a plot of chives that's just overgrown. There's no way with a little snip, snip, snip I'd ever cut it down, but I got to give it a chance for new growth. And then there's a plot of mint that has it got dried out, and so I decided to whack half of that down. Anyway, I'm getting all this stuff done, and I'm tasting my first tomatoes, and I'm all excited. And then I say, "Well, gotta go," and I jumped in my car, and it was 3:20. So Denise has got to go in 20 minutes. So what we're going to do, honey, is I'm going to just honor that, and this is going to be our go with the flow session. So last week, if you were with us, we talked about joy. And this program is called Happiness is Running Through the Streets to Find You. Then it morphed into two trauma survivors walking each other home, as we do each week. We're trauma survivors, and guess what? We are choosing every day to have the best possible, fullest possible, most alive, most meaningful, and joyous life. So that's what we're both doing. Denise is taking off to deal with butterfly people, which is awesome. And I'm coming in from the garden, which I adore. So let me just ask Denise, sweetie, how would you like to check in with folk that are listening?
Um, so last week, remember, I had my most joyful day ever,
It's
and
beautiful.
it really lasted for a few days. I kept smiling about it and remembering it, and it was pretty cool. And then I went to the cottage to be with my family. My sister came, my nephew, and I was just myself, genuine, not worried about what everybody's thinking or it was good. So I think I've had a new healing phase.
What was going on inside of you? Were you having a dialogue like you usually
I
do?
kind of, yeah, I was like, well, mostly I was like, don't worry about that to myself. Like when my sister got upset or when my mom seemed off, I didn't, it wasn't about me. I couldn't fix it. It's theirs. So that was good. That was cool.
Oh, how did now I know it's about us because if we keep the focus on ourselves, we can heal. And if I get lost in other people's business and become codependent, I don't heal. So how did your keeping the focus on yourself affect your mom in particular?
She was I mean, she didn't notice really. I mean, I don't think she pays that much attention, so she didn't notice.
So if
She
she
just
was
thought I was the same as always, and that's fine. But inside, I wasn't the same as always.
that's
I
right,
wasn't
that's
all
what matters.
nervous and worried and anxious. I was just calm and like, this is what I'm doing.
And it must have been, that's so good to hear. And it must have been a total joy to be with your nephew. Is he double digits yet? Is he
No,
10?
he's 8, 7 or 8 only.
So what's he into at 7 or 8?
Well, really, he likes to watch YouTube and but like him and I rode bikes a couple times. He loved releasing the butterfly, but he didn't want to touch it because I
Well,
had
how
one
did,
while he was there.
okay. So if he
Uh,
didn't want to touch it, what did he do?
he just watched it and he was in awe of it and enjoyed it. And I'm making a project because I'm doing uh camp, a children's camp, science camp
Yay.
I'm going to go to with my monarchs. And so I'm making a big bulletin board. Well, you can see the poster boards back there.
Yeah. Tell
Uh,
me about that. When's that coming up?
it's at the end of the month, so I have plenty of time to prepare. But so
Great.
what I did was my sister's an artist. So I wanted to get her input on, how to design it. And so I took what I have already ready to go and asked her about how to display it. And
Yeah. What did you learn?
I'm going to do on the two outside panels, it's a trifold. I'm going to paint um, myself some milkweed plants. And then I'm taking, so far I've taken all the pictures of each of the stages of the monarch life cycle. And I
Okay.
made a little kind of like a book, only it's going to be displayed on that poster board, the whole life cycle with photographs. And they're really good photographs. It's beautiful. I laminated them in little groups and have sentences with it. And so the next step is to put the display together on the board. Well, first I have to paint the monarchs, the two or the milkweed on the two outside panels. Then my next job is going to be taking pictures of all the other insects that are on the milkweed plant, which there are many, many, many.
Wow.
And so
D-
I'm going to,
Does
what I'm
that
going to
mean that
do,
but I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to know. Does
it's
that
fine.
mean that other insects have their life cycle as part of the milkweed plant?
Yep. And some
What?
of them are friend and some of them are foe. Some of them eat the egg, eat the little caterpillar. Others are more friendly they just enjoy the milkweed also. And so my intention is to take pictures of each of those and print them and place them on fake leaves that are hanging off the poster board, like 3D.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds wonderful. And how are you going to interact with the kids? Because the kids will be, you're going to do a class for them?
It's like a camp and it's like they go to different stations. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll have a little chat. I'll just chat with them about what I have my um enclosures. I have three enclosures, one for the eggs, one for the eaters, and one for the those that are going to chrysalis.
Wow. So how do you determine when a very hungry caterpillar, an eater, how do you determine when it's time for her to go to the chrysalis? Do they just start doing a chrysalis?
Right. They start climbing up the side of the enclosure to go to the top.
Oh,
So then I
okay.
offer them a leaf and then move them to the top. Or when they're a
Gotcha.
certain size, when they're huge, I'll just take one leaf and put them there to finish that leaf and then get busy.
Wow. So the first thing they do is they build a connection to the leaf so they can hang off it.
They go to the top of the enclosure and they
Okay.
build it, they call it a button. It's a little web and they do it very securely in the middle and then there's usually in two directions a stretched out kind of web and
Hmm.
that is where they attach their backside and then they make the J position.
Wow.
And they're in
So
the
the
J
caterpillar
position.
goes into a J position. Okay.
Yes.
And
And then
then
from there, it will turn into a chrysalis. And it's the other day, I had all the lights in the right place and all everything ready to videotape the process. And I
Uh-huh.
sat there and waited, and then it did it. And I thought I hit record, but I didn't.
Ah,
But anyway, I'll probably get a video of it one time because I watch them closely. So,
you will. You've got a whole month. Really, if it's
yes.
not until the end of July, 30 days has September. So you got a
I
lot of
got a lot.
time. How
Yep.
far, how close is the camp?
It's in Waterville. It's like a 25, 30 minute drive.
Not bad. And what are the ages of the kids?
It's an elementary school summer camp, so primary school.
Oh my God, I'm excited for you. And I saw the
Yeah.
pictures. You just did a another story time.
Oh yeah.
How was that?
Story time's great. I do it every Friday there at the coffee shop.
Ah, it's so good. So
They
let
give
me
me a
ask
pound.
you, they give you a pound of coffee? Woo,
Yeah.
honey, what kind do you get?
I like Bigby's best. And I have the beans ground bigger because I use a coffee
I
press.
love coffee press coffee. Yeah, that's the best. Either that or my cappuccino latte maker. That's
Yeah.
also the best because I can
Yeah.
steam in the milk. Oh my God. Well, girl, I want to go to something that if folk have been with us, they know. And if they haven't, just want to say that this person sitting with me here has made major decisions, major changes, requiring courage, requiring hope, requiring um, lots of strength. And here's what the deal is. Denise found out that she had choices career wise, and those choices they were limited, but they were still options.
Right.
And this is after decades of being an expert, learning to be an expert with Head Start kids and just being, I'm sure, really, really like excellent, excellent teacher. So tell us what it's like, Denise, to go from that decision making time, which was really only months ago,
Right.
to today.
Well, I'm still in I probably passed the anger stage with my financial advisor because she wants me to wait until 66 and 8 months to collect Social
Okay.
Security, which I was planning on collecting at 66. I think I'm past the anger and now I'm into acceptance, and I'm going to have to do twice as much work that I'm doing now. But I've just been easing into work, you know.
Mhm.
I was really trying to get used to not being obligated to somebody 40 hours a week from 6 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. And so I've built my business slowly. I've been to the library a couple times to their business help
Good.
center and had two different women help me with different aspects of building a business. And so now I guess I'm to accept. And she just told me like 4 days ago that I really advise you to wait until 66 and 8 months. And I'm like, okay, bye. And then I was like, oh, I
Sad
want to
ahead,
keep
but
it just how it is, I want to keep my soft
yeah,
routine, but I'm just gonna have to work a little more, probably twice as much, which is not gonna be horrible either.
right. But let me
I'm
ask
in
you this.
acceptance of that now.
Acceptance is a whole lot better than resistance because
Anger,
that takes
yeah.
energy. Sweetie, how much longer for you before you reach 66 and 8 months?
Well, about a year, because I'll be in September, I'll be 66.
Okay.
So then it'll be 8 months after that.
Oh, that's not bad. You just have to get
No,
through the winter.
right. I think up
Okay.
to November, actually. So it's fine. And you applied 3 months early, so you'll start feeling because I've been starting to want to take a cruise, because I have a savings account that in my checking, and I just always left my extra money in there. So that's what I've been living on. But if I have to make that last 8 more months, I
Yeah.
gotta have to pump up my income so
Um,
that I have some left over so I can take a cruise.
when do you have to pay for the cruise?
I don't. I haven't selected it yet. I was waiting to see what I have left when I'm
I
there.
gotcha. Do you want to do a women's cruise?
Maybe they have Olivia cruises that are women only,
Yes, they
but
do.
I
And
don't mind, man. I
it's
just
just it's got to be a very different feeling to go on an Olivia cruise. And if folk don't know it, can you tell folk what Olivia is?
Olivia was a music. I believe they started as a music
Yep.
label, a
Hmm.
women's music label, and then as things changed and they became more diverse in their services, they started doing cruises.
Yeah. And they had famous people.
Yeah,
Gosh, Chris
Williamson,
Williamson. Hmm. And that's like 50, 60 years ago that she was
Holly
creating
Near.
Holly Near. Oh my God. And didn't they do like a women's festival in the
Yes, I've
Midwest?
been to the Women's Festival many times. It's an amazing, magical place. And there is a different sensation when you're in the presence of only women. There's
Yes.
a safety that you feel that is just unattainable in our typical culture.
Hmm. Now
Really interesting.
that is fascination to hear you say that. And let's talk about that a little bit. I know you got to go in 6 minutes, but here's the question. You and I were both raised by mothers that had challenges, and that's a gentle way of putting it. They weren't, my mother, I think she really wanted to be a mother. She just had too many mental illness troubles to be present. She was gone a lot, dissociated, schizophrenic, just whatever it was, psychotic. And she couldn't be there. She just couldn't be there. And I have a picture of me. I don't know if you can see it, but here I am. I'm like just 3 years old and I'm with my mother. And look at those eyes. I'm so afraid of her that I won't let her touch my hand. So I'm doing something with my hands so she won't touch me. And I remember that. So how now here we are, but we both have great women friends and great women times with women. How do you think we as trauma survivors got through that fear that we must have picked up by not feeling safe with our mothers? How do we feel safe with women?
Yeah. Um, just experience, and the safety that you feel there at Michigan Women's Music Festival. Now, they ended at 40 years, and then but now the land is being bought by a coalition of women, and they're doing smaller events like 4 times a summer. And I've
Oh,
been a couple times to that too. And the safety is just something that once you're all settled in and uh you know where the coffee shop is and you know where the food tent is, then it just kind of settles over you that and it's beautiful. Like I many times have walked, there's a long high street which they don't allow cars. They allow cars just to drop your stuff off, but before they didn't even let cars in there. So there's a long road that goes to the called the tree line, and that's where I camped a couple years ago. And I was walking out there by myself in the middle of the night without a fear in the world. You just know that you're safe, that women are making sure you're safe. It's a beautiful feeling.
and that relates so much to what you said last week when you first had that wonderful ongoing feeling of joy. You were with women.
Right, I was.
That was all
So
women.
now I feel safe with women, and I can't say I ever felt unsafe with my mom. She really just she didn't have options about having children. She just thought she had to. And she was very fertile. She was one, two, three girls
Yeah.
in a row. And, she wasn't that ambitious about it. So, we were mostly unsupervised so I didn't really feel unsafe with her, but I didn't feel safe either. I didn't feel protected. The first time I reported that some boy molested me in the alley, she said I was lying.
But how did you how did you feel about that?
Well, I think that's when I really knew that, okay, this is not a dependable, safety oriented place.
Mhm. Yeah. I think the other aspect we're talking about here, and you got about 2 minutes, girl. The other aspect here is besides safety, which is the bottom line to feel we can recover as trauma survivors. The next thing is, and you and I have talked about this, the next thing is to have trust and trust that the other person is going to care for us. And I have a trauma counselor who says to me, the thing about traumatized children is nobody was there for them.
Right. And
And
but there
that's
was a woman
hard.
down the street who I saw was very good with her baby and loved her baby. And I always sought out people that were like that were at least caring to their own children, so then I could, be around it.
Hmm. And could you feel that from them coming towards you?
Um, Maybe, probably not, but maybe.
Because I felt I had Mrs. Dersham across the street, and when my mother was in one of her episodes, and I had gone blackberry picking, I really wanted to make a blackberry pie, and there was no way my mother could have that. She just couldn't do anything when she got in one of her episodes. And so I took the blackberries over a big pot of them to in my aluminum colander. Remember those things that made it? They
Uh-huh.
didn't, anyway, I took it over to Ruth Dersham, and she said, sure. There she was smoking her cigarette, and she gets, she makes the pie crust from the Pillsbury thing. We wash and put in the blackberries, a bunch of sugar, then butter. And, I just stayed there with her. And I felt safe and cared for, but not necessarily loved. Honestly,
Right.
as I know you got to go, but I think one of the big challenges and I want to hear what you think about this, but one of the biggest challenges for trauma survivors is believing that there will ever be someone, including ourselves, that can fully accept, love, and honor ourselves as we can honor other people, especially children.
Which I get that at story time when the way that children look at me when I'm facilitating a group, especially certain ones. There's certain ones that look at me like, you are the best teacher I ever saw in my whole life. They might only be 3 years old, and I know that. However, they
That's
look at
important.
me like I'm amazing, and I
And you
really
are. You
I
are.
take that from them. I
Yeah.
love it. And I always tell their parents, oh, this is why I do story time right here.
Do their parents ever get jealous?
No,
Good. Because
it's
they're just
just an
happy.
hour.
Yeah, and they're happy for their kids to find this great place. Oh my God. Sweetie, you got to go.
I
I know
do.
you. So, what's next for you with the butterflies? You're going to meet a butterfly friend?
Yes, we're meeting over there on Centennial, and there's a huge field that has not been mowed yet that we're gonna be able to go hopefully find some more. I found two. I found one caterpillar at Lord's College yesterday
All
and
right.
potentially four eggs, but it's hard to tell whether one might already be hatched. I'm not
Okay.
sure. And one is questionable whether it is, but it's inside the plant, so I can't really get a good picture and magnify it well enough. And two look definitely viable, so I have a
Oh,
start for my display.
and what's your total, girl?
Right, I already released six.
So you release Sweetie, And
Yeah, I got
Kevin,
the list.
yeah, I want
Sweetie,
to hear
honey, Carla,
Kevin.
Carla,
Kevin.
Charlie, Lily, little Sophie boy. And now I have a list in alphabetical order of unisex names uh, for the rest. So
Why'd you choose?
the
Okay.
new caterpillar is Angel. I have Beauty, Darling, Easy, Friendly, Goldie. Names that are I'm ready for them.
Oh, I love it. And you know they're going to be ready for you. Well, girl, I want you to go and make it on time. It sounds like a wonderful thing. I think I'll go on a little bit with folk, but
Okay.
hopefully I will be here on time next week, which will be July.
Yes.
Boy, God, we're talking
Today's July.
what?
Today's July 1st.
Geez, I'm rabbit, rabbit, rabbit.
Yeah, so set your alarm in your clock, in your phone.
Yeah, and I'll take my phone with me so that I know.
Yeah,
So thank you for being such a good sport, and we'll
no
see you next week.
worries.
Okay,
Yep,
sweetie.
I'll
Have
see
a
you
great
next week.
time.
Have a
Okay.
lovely week.
You too, hon. All right, my friends. I want to thank Denise. Isn't it fascinating that Denise and I both have things that we totally love as trauma survivors? We just love them. We are passionate about them. I'm wondering if that's true for you, and if that's true for trauma survivors. Do we, in part, find joy, meaning, hope, a raison d'etre, a purpose in life by being really passionate about some things? I think so. I think so. Maybe, how can I say? Maybe here, let's look at that. First off, what about you? Do you have, if you're a trauma survivor or you're close to a trauma survivor, do you or your close buddy, friend, associate have something that you really, it's, that awful phrase, it's to die for. I always say it's to live for. Do you have that? I mean, for me, honeys, I was just in one of my gardens. I've got gardens here and gardens there, gardens here at my home, and gardens in a community plot in the town next door. And I just was so excited when I got there because my tomato plants are like 6 feet tall. And I've already got a 4 foot, a 3 foot raised bed. So these things are like giants. And today I apologized to a tomato plant because it was growing so tall that I apologized. I said, I'm sorry. And I snipped off one of those leaders that it was just going way up. And I thought it won't be able to support itself. It's so anyway, I do apologize now to plants because plants have feelings too. Because as a survivor, I found friendships, life, meaning in the out of doors. Truly. I mean, I loved every dragonfly that landed on me. I wrote poetry, dragonfly, purple as night sky, lights upon my knee. We were young, you and I, in that July moment gone by. Where? Where but in wind chime times, or the Musée de Nancy? Was it ever easy? Was it ever difficult? I don't know if that made sense to you at all, but for me, it was a trope I was at this lake cottage that I had and no longer have, a loss of having gotten divorced. And I loved that place. And I sat on a rock and a dragonfly, they were frequent, landed on my knee. And I felt a poem coming to me. And I'm associated from the dragonfly, purple as night sky, alighting on my knee and bringing light to my knee, to remembering a time with a lover. We were young, you and I, in that July moment gone by. And in New England, the phrase is there's July and the rest of the year. or there's road repair season rest of the year. What we're talking about is July, and it started today, and I didn't even pay attention to that. I'm thinking it's the end of June. That's my sense of time. July is, to me, it's a perfect month. Perfect because the sun is abundant. The breezes are often abundant. The lakes are ready to swim in. The flowers are blooming. Oh my God. Today it's lilies. I have all these lilies opening. Oh my God. And I have snapdragons and I have buds on my zinnias. And I have, oh, I don't even know the names of some of these plants that are blooming. What I do, and this gives me joy, I go to year's end sale. I watch all of the places in Vermont and Massachusetts and New Hampshire, the nurseries that put their plants that weren't bought during the year for whatever reason, they put them on like 50% off. And so what I do is I gather up all of these lilies, I gather up all of these irises, I gather up all of these perennials, and I plant them in the ground in plenty of time to build a root system. And that's all they need. They need a root system. Talk about survivors. They need a strong root system. And then they sleep all winter. And in New England, we say that snow is the poor man's fertilizer. And I actually rejoice when I see the blanket upon blanket of snow coming down. And sometimes the people that plow the driveways pile up the snow on my property. I'm happy because that means that those plants that I put in there, honey, they are joyous and free. They're resting, they're building up their strength. And then, oh God, there's something about this season. I always joke, of course, we don't have global warming. That's, of course we do. And of course, there's huge changes. And so this year, my columbine, which are these beautiful trumpety plants with like maybe white on the outside and purple blue on the inside, they're just elegant. And they were like 4 feet tall this year. They're usually about 2.5 feet. I had so many peonies. I just left them. I had some in my dining room, but I just left most of them so they could just enjoy their life cycle. So what is it? What is it about a trauma survivor that finds something that we are totally passionate about? Denise is totally passionate about helping butterflies, monarch butterflies, get free. As she was talking about, she hunts the little, I want to call it a bud, or is it a little what? The little, what's it called? What bud of egg? Yeah, the egg, different system. So she hunts the eggs and then she puts them in these environments that are safe and wonderful for them. And then she nurtures them while they're walking around eating whatever they want, And then, as she just described, she lets them climb to the top and helps them find their place where they can put their nest to hang from. And then that marvelously ooey gooey chrysalis turning into something that can fly. That caterpillar with all those legs becomes something that can fly. Well, there we have it, right? The very hungry caterpillar, some of which are not very pretty at all, some of which are beautiful. That very hungry caterpillar that has no backbone, that just eats, goops, and walks. Those very hungry caterpillars somehow transform into this state of grace. They get to fly. So let me ask you, as a trauma survivor, what is it in our lives that allows us to fly, to transform, to grow, to find beauty and to find meaning? And I'll tell you, I'm just all sweaty coming in from the gardens. As soon as we're done, I'm going to go out to my garden here. I'm going to plant some stargazer lilies. Whoever named a lily a stargazer? Well, that's part of the whole thing, right? The beauty and the opportunity to be so close to nature that we maybe get to name something. There are ways to name stars. That's amazing. I've thought of that. And there to honor someone that I really love. There are ways to name new flowers. And there's a garden in Vermont, the Olali lilies. And each year they invite people to, you have to pay, it's okay. And then you get a flower named after somebody. So I was thinking, and I may still name a lily Dr. Michael Ganta, the first person that ever saw me. Because trauma survivors do not forget when someone finally sees us, when someone finally hears us, and when someone finally believes us. Yeah, that's what really matters. So this question I had for you, which is, do trauma survivors who survive, but don't just survive, we live our lives, do we need to have a passion for something? Do we need to have something that gives us meaning? And what happens if we outlive that, like a relationship, or outlive that, like a job we can't do anymore, or grow too old to be able to be the things that we used to love? Yeah, I used to bike all the time. And when I was just in France, they had these options to go biking. And I didn't choose it. One time was in the rain, but another time was really hot. And I thought, I don't think I think I'd rather walk. If that's a choice 20, 15, even years ago, I would not have made the choice that way. I would have biked across this part of southern France where I was on holiday. So here, I want to know what you feel and hear. I'd like to hear your feedback. My sense is that trauma survivors who make it, like Denise, like me, I hope like you, trauma survivors that make it find passion, spiritual passion. What does that mean? That means we're so excited and full of life about something that we will give our souls, not away, but we will dedicate our souls to making it work. So I adore my gardens. In the morning, before I do anything, before I even pee, I walk to my big windows and I look down at my front garden to see what's blooming today. My God, this coreopsis that I have, that's a wonderful rust color. It's sort of like this, but it also has a cranberry color, and it has this is where I keep the ashes of my beloved yellow lab Toby. Free. It's free. Ah, and if that was sad or hard for you, I hope you'll take a moment to take care of yourself. Yeah. It's very heartbreaking when we lose one of our fellow travelers who's a furry friend. Furry friend is like hardly a way to describe the close spirited connection we have with our dogs, with our cats, with our horses. We get to be ourselves with them. If this question that I'm asking, do trauma survivors have a passion? Must we have a passion for something? I don't think we all do, but I think the happy ones among us do. I think many people have a passion for their grandparents, or they have a passion for their homes, or they have a passion for opera, they have a passion for race cars, whatever it is. When we are in the place of our passion, we come fully to life. I see. Would you say that a traumatized child can come to life? For me, that answer is really clear. No, I had to hide. I had to run and hide. I had to pretend. I had to cover myself up. I had to make myself small. I had to make myself fit. I had to put myself down. I had to blame myself. None of that is a way to be full of joy. So when Denise says she acknowledged for the first time in her life she was full of joy, I get that. I feel there's something primordial, something timeless, something forever about joy and about being in a state of joy. And so before we close here, I want to say that when I drove to my garden in Leominster, Massachusetts, a place called Growing Place, where community members of any income can grow our gardens. I've been going there for I don't know, more than a decade, at least a decade since I moved here away from the lake I adored. However, yeah, there's sadness that I left the lake. And there was joy for being on a river for a week, great joy. Until the last night. The last night, I didn't know this happened, but people that are used to doing riverboat cruises, they knew that riverboats pile up. So if the riverboat I was on was right next to the shore, if your cabin, which mine was facing the river, which is what I wanted, then I could look out at that river all night, and there was something sacred, holy, timeless, wondrous about leaving my curtains wide open, and watching the river at night. And the riverboat had lights that went onto the river, so I could watch the river and I could see the light rising across the river. I could see boats going by. I could see trunks of trees going by. It was just healing. But the last day, this other boat snuggled right up to us. I mean, it was within spitting distance of my boat. If I went out in my little space where I could stand outside, open the sliding glass doors, walked out, stood there, I could have spit right on that boat. I could look in. I mean, at night when everybody's sleeping, I could look in and see, okay, down there's where the dining room is, and that's where they've got everything set up for the morning. Up there is the lobby. It's a kind of a pretty lobby. All these boats really market to people by making themselves really pretty. But I didn't have the view, and I felt sad for that. So, what are the things in your life that give you great joy, that offer you meaning? They're meaningful to you, that offer you ease, that offer you timeless moments, that offer you the sense that God's in God's heaven and all is right with the world. I don't know if everybody needs that. I kind of think we do. I kind of think it's part of being human. I do know this. As a trauma survivor, that is what really, really matters to me. It's knowing what I love and no longer stopping myself from being with what I love. I have just purchased online iridescent watercolors. I have just purchased online half-price paintbrushes. And I will go to a craft store nearby and I will purchase a notebook where I can paint, where I can watercolor paint. And I don't know. All I know is that I watch the water and the paint create themselves out of their own energy and gravity and whatever else is going on. They create their own shape, and they create their own form, and they create their own combination of colors. And then I look until something emerges for me. And decades ago, what emerged was these curious mosses which I looked up. I knew them from my childhood. I used to marvel at them. They were called Hessian soldiers. Hessian soldiers were German mercenaries that were brought over during the Revolutionary War. So for centuries, these Hessian soldier mosses have been in upstate New York. Why Hessian soldiers? They're straight up, except on top is like a crater, not an ugly crater, but a soft concave space. And the inside of that is red. So here's the green and here's the red. So there must have been a Hessian soldier with a red cap on. Yeah. So when I saw emerging from the watercolor I was doing that was spreading, when I saw that moss, and I let it become the moss and I drew over it. And I hope I still have that. Because those things give me joy. It's a way of having images, not necessarily words, but having images that have been inside me forever come up and speak to me. That gives me meaning. That gives me joy. And I could have sat on the small boat, 3 stories. I could have sat on that top deck painting all day. I could have. It was an hour and a half class in the bay and on the river in Bordeaux. I think it was Bordeaux, France. Might have been one of the other places like Saint Emilion, but I don't think so. But everybody, I took a quick look around and people were painting landscapes and houses and animals. And it was all just right. And there I was with 2 pieces of paper, not just one. White paper, the pre-Raphaelite idea that beneath every creation needs to be white to uplift, to spread the light through. So I had that white paper and I just drops of water. And I spread the water out with a brush. And then I chose purple, of course. Dropped it, spread, and the communication began. And that's it, isn't it? It's the connection. We all have a connection with whatever gives us meaning. We have a connection with people that we love. We love to talk with because we can be true. We can say things that are true to us. I say of my Ray, my trauma counselor, I said, Ray, never been Chatty Cathy before. If you don't know Chatty Cathy, there was a doll in like, I don't know, the 60s or something, maybe the 50s, but I think it had this string with a ring at the bottom of it. You could pull it and Chatty Cathy would talk away. Well, as a trauma survivor, I was not supposed to talk. Don't talk. Don't feel, don't trust. I wasn't supposed to talk. So I kept my mouth shut and I never told the secrets. I never betrayed the family by telling the secrets. It was only when I became an adult and I realized this is my story to tell. I wasn't telling anybody else's story. It was my story to tell. And when I could stop the estoppel that kept me from talking, the healing began. The healing began. And so decades later, here I am with Ray. And we talk once a week and I'm just going on and on and on. And it doesn't have to mean something. It can just be, oh, this reminds me of this, and this reminds me of this. And I don't even stop to say this reminds me of this. I just leap from one topic to another because that's how my brain works. It's very intuitive. It's like, okay, this hair clip. Oh my goodness, no, it looks like some kind of a thrashing machine somehow that went through all of the fields when I was a child growing up in New York State. And the thrashing machine, they had this special sound and they would take they'd take the hay and they'd turn it into bales and it smelled really fresh. And later on, I noticed that the bales of hay were turned into something that looked like shredded wheat. And in fact, at the conservation land where I love to walk and near where my garden plots are, that is where they have at the end of the season. It looks like a shredded wheat. And if you don't know shredded wheat back in the day, shredded wheat was like a circle of grain. And there it is. So, my friends, I'm going to leave you soon for this week. And I'm going to invite you to reflect on whatever has come out of this program that might have touched you or raised a question with you. And I want to know, and here's the question for this program, do we who had ourselves put away, pickled, bottled, shamed, incested, beaten, unseen, unheard, unbelieved, unallowed to be true to ourselves, when we grow up and we allow ourselves to be in a place where we can make choices, do we then, as trauma survivors, is this a distinguishing characteristic of you and of me as trauma survivors? Do we find things that we're absolutely passionate about, and we love them forever and always? And we love them forever and always. Perhaps in the way that no one could love us, but in the way that we wanted to be loved. And it isn't a quid pro quo. It isn't my saying, because I love my flowers so much, somebody owes me or the flowers owe me. No. Wherever I have lived as an adult, I have planted flowers. New Jersey, North Carolina, Maine, Massachusetts, all over Massachusetts. And so when I leave places behind, I leave so many perennials. And if people see them and adore them, I've given back. And this year, for the first time, because I felt like people that were, well, I felt like when I left my lake cottage, that no one would be appreciating the flowers as I did. I knew that to be true. I knew that to be true because I knew who was there. And I knew the flowers would not be tended, and they weren't. So a lot of those flowers, those lilies, those phlox, they're here surrounding my condominium. And when I leave, this condominium will be a British garden of flowers. By British garden, I don't mean the precise, everything is precise, although some British gardens are like that. What I mean is my gardens grow in harmony. If I plant a coral bell beside an echinacea, they befriend each other. If I plant phlox next to an iris, they befriend each other. If I plant a delphinium next to, what are those things called? They have a delphinium next to, I can't come up with the name of the plant, but a purple delphinium next to a yellow plant that looks flower, all of which the bees load forever and always. Those flowers can love on each other, sleep with each other throughout the winter, and love on each other for their whole life cycle. So, my friends, being a trauma survivor, much pain, much sorrow, much possibility for joy, much need for hope, and much desire for connection. Hope to see you the next time. And if you're going to join us live, join us. We'll post the link, or just go to my website. You can find the link, hollyalisabruno.com, or happinessisrunningthroughthestreetstoffindyou.com, and you'll find the link. And then join us, East Coast US, 3 p.m. or anytime afterwards when we have the podcast recorded and we post it all over the place, or just contact me and I'll send you this stuff. I'm glad you joined us. I'm grateful that I'm going to go. With my 2 earrings on one ear instead of one earring on 2 ears. That's me. That's okay. And may you find what you need. And may you find people that see you and love you, especially yourself.